Hi everyone, welcome to church. Welcome to church. Sorry we're starting a little late. We're moving the time now to 1 p.m. Nigerian time, 12:30 to be more precise, instead of 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock then was for the radio. So the title of today's message is The Urgent 2K God. An urgent 2K God that we worship. How are you doing? Someone says you attend to church today. This is our church. We've been doing it at 12:30 for samples for a while, and I'm glad we're able to. So we're moving. Nigeria is a very interesting place. Nigeria is a country where you just buy popcorn, buy Coke, and just be looking at the country, you'll be entertained. When a bishop will be discussing religious war with a political leader or a political candidate, then they'll be confirming and they'll be denying. Nigeria is an interesting state. To say the least, Nigeria is entertaining. You see, I met somebody the other day in one of the shopping malls, and the person was like, Daddy Freeze, you have to be letting people believe what they want to believe. You have to let people believe what they want to believe. You judge not. Sorry, I hope this thing doesn't shake as I'm trying to pull out so I can find somewhere to put my other, I live stream with about 5 phones and I don't have enough space for one of them. Okay, so I think it will be there. Awesome. This 5 phones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the person was like, Daddy Freeze, it's not fair. Allow people to believe what they want to believe. Blah, 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 blah. You believe what you want to believe and allow others to believe what they want to believe. I laughed. I said, I don't have a problem with you. To be honest, I don't have a problem with what you believe. You're a lost generation. So you can literally believe anything you want to believe. But I have a problem with your children believing what you believe for 2 reasons. I don't want your children making the mistakes you have made, 1. And 2, I don't want your children influencing my children to the point where they would be sharing a notion that their parents actually have sense. So I don't want your kids to be polluted by you, but sometimes that's too late. You've already polluted your children. Then my only choice in life is, please do not pollute my own children the way you have endeavored to pollute yours. Yesterday, we had all sorts of comic reliefs regarding the election. And I looked at the previous generation. I was having a conversation with a neighbor friend of mine, and he was saying, he works in an oil company, and he was saying, that I saw him with a young lady, and I said, who's this young lady? And he said, she's a new person who works in my company, and I was trying to help her, put her through so that she doesn't make the mistakes we made. And we got talking, and One of the mistakes, what our parents taught us, were some of the greatest financial mistakes we ever made. They will tell you that house is an asset. Don't get me wrong, house is an asset. The location of the house is what makes it an asset or a liability. He told me of how he used 50 million to build a house in the village so that he would have a house in the village. Typical our parents' style. Only for him to realize that 50 million he spent 15 years or 13 years ago gets him rent of 400,000. Yeah, like 5 flats, 400,000 per flat. Guess what? 50 million naira in 2010 was about almost $200,000. Because in 2010, dollar was about 170 naira. So let's do the math. So he spent 50 million divided by 165. Oh wow, he spent $303,000 to build him a house. Do you know how much $303,000 is? Multiply by 750. He spent 227 million naira and is getting rent of 2 million a year. So you spend 200 million. In 10 years, you're gonna get 20 million. So it's gonna take him 100 years to recoup his money. I need you to wake up. The naira is not a legal tender in any country except yours. Maybe Republic of Benin. Maybe 1 or 2 neighboring countries, you might be lucky, Togo. But there is no developed country on earth that you can even change naira. Forget spending it. There is no developed country on earth that you walk into a bank with 500,000 naira and you say you want to exchange it. If that country does not exist. You can't do it in the UK, you can't do it in the US, you can't do it in Australia, you can't do it in New Zealand, you can't do it in Switzerland, you can't do it in any developed nation on earth. So whatever business you are transacting in naira and you are getting your results in naira is a failed business, dead on arrival. Why is the Chinese yuan so strong? Or the yen, or whatever they call it? Because the Chinese produce to the world. And when they sell to America, they don't collect yen, they collect dollars. And when they sell to the British, they don't collect yen, or yuan, or whatever the Chinese currency is called, they collect pounds. When they sell to Europe, they collect euro. So they produce on their own local currency and sell and bring in foreign currency. That's why they get richer by the day and more powerful by the day. Yen is Japanese yuan. I was right initially, but thank you for correcting me. As long as the Nigerian mentality is the cockroach consumer mentality, write this down. As long as the Nigerian mentality remains and retains its position as the cockroach consumer mentality. You ever seen a cockroach build a nest before? Have you ever seen a cockroach gather other cockroaches and say, "Hi guys, let's start a colony"? A wasp attacked a bee. The entire hive went to look for the wasp, caught the wasp, and stung the wasp till the wasp died. Ants build colonies. Bees build colonies. Weaver birds build colonies. Cockroaches consume. They consume what is in their natural environment. They consume what is artificial. They just consume. A cockroach can stay alive on the glue behind a postage stamp for months. It is an adaptation that helped them survive. So the cockroach consumer mentality is a survival mentality, but the problem is cockroaches do not develop. They are survivors. There is nowhere you will take a cockroach to. You put it inside ice, it will survive. You cut off his head, it will survive. You give it only a postage stamp, it will survive. But cockroaches never thrive. Bees are so intelligent that they recognize people. Oh, now you can't scatter. They will chase you. If you jump into a pool, they will be waiting outside the pool like this for you. Have you heard about bees? They will be waiting outside the pool unless you want to turn into a fish and live underwater till night when they get tired and go home. They will wait for you. You come out of this water. Unless that pool, like Delee's house, if you jump inside this pool, there is an underground or underwater way into his sitting room. So unless you are lucky enough, you have a house like Delee's house, where you will jump inside the pool and then swim underwater and come out in the parlor, the bees will be waiting for you outside. They have a political system. Same thing with the ants. They have a queen. They have a workforce. They have soldiers. The average cockroach is like the next cockroach. Only in the soldier, only in the builder, only in the everything. Oh yeah, they scatter, they go. The cockroach consumer mentality. We were raised to consume. And we thank God for the ability we have to consume. God provides. You see, let's put ourselves into the shoes of a cockroach, for instance. He wakes up in the morning and baby Freeze just left his sandwich half eaten. What's the cockroach going to do? Oh, wow, my Lord. Oh, God, you are great. You have provided food for me. So if baby Freeze did not eat and leave sandwich, waiting go chop. Waiting didn't want chop. Meanwhile, the bee wakes up and starts flying around looking for natural resources, flowers. They know which flowers to use. And then they bring the flowers, they go for the nectar in the flowers. Now, while they're taking the nectar, they're pollinating the flower. So they also, don't say, the bee is taking the flower. No, without bees, all the flowers in the world will end within 1 year. Flowers need bees to take the pollen grains from one flower to the other to help fertilize. So as the flower is giving the nectar, the flower is also giving the pollen. And the bees are taking the pollen from one flower to the other. The bee doesn't wake up in the morning with a prayer. The cockroach wakes up in the morning with a prayer. Because what the cockroach is going to eat that day is not sure. Taloja jeku, who chop remain. Then person will forget to put chicken, big chicken inside fridge, can't travel. Oh, you will come see cockroaches, they will gather. What God cannot do does not exist. Hallelujah. Baby. Oh, hey, they will come do like 2 hours prayer meeting, come begin to chop the chicken. Cockroaches are so resourceful that even your latrine is a blessing to them. But what if you stopped pooing and you stopped leaving remnants of food? How's the cockroach going to eat? He doesn't know how to produce honey. He doesn't know how to build a nest. He is just used to eating leftovers and remnants. Look at Nigeria. Please compare Nigeria with Switzerland. All the watches in the world, Rolex. If it's not Swiss, people worry. Say it's not a Swiss watch. If their factory is not in Geneva, or maybe their factory is not in Geneva, you are locked, but their headquarters is in Geneva. Rolex, Audemars Piguet, Patek Philippe, Breguet, Cartier. Watches and Wonders this year was this Monday. All the watch brands were released. That is Switzerland. Watches to the whole world. Chocolates, banking. 3 global products. Let's look at the UK. Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Jaguar, Land Rover. Germany, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Porsche, Audi, Volkswagen. Volkswagen, by the way, is the second largest car producer in the world, and it drags it with Toyota. Sometimes Toyota, more times it's Toyota than Volkswagen, but Volkswagen they drag them. Some years Volkswagen they take over from Toyota. Japan needs no introduction. Neither does China. Neither does Russia of the United States of America. These are, I want you to write them down, they are B colony countries. BCCs. So we have BCCs and we have CCMs, cockroach consumer mentality countries, and B colony countries. B colony countries. In a B colony country, the smallest member of the hive is taken care of. In a cockroach consumer country, only the top roaches, those ones that can fly, those are the only roaches that do well. The rest are just running around. You see that they don't even have wings. Running around, scattering everywhere with their smell and everything. The bee. What did I call it again? Bee colony countries. Thank you very much. And then the cockroach consumer mentality countries. They just want to, and you'll be amazed that as the world evolves, we have more BCCs than CCMs. Countries like Dubai don't have much. They have tourism. There's no car produced in Dubai. There's no watch produced in Dubai.
South Africa.
There is not much produced in Dubai, but Dubai has put itself in a position where it is so renowned for tourism that the whole world wants to go there. India, although they have small production here and there, India is known more for hospitals, medical tourism. Someone said Dubai have oil. Yes, they have oil. We have oil too. Saudi Arabia exports religious tourism and oil. Israel exports religious tourism, and the bees of Israel have formed colonies all over the world. Now, let's look at the Indian bees, the Jewish bees, the Asian bees, and the Pakistani bees. Wherever they settle, they start a colony there. They get a queen bee, gather some workers around the queen bee, and before you know it, a full colony has been established. You cannot mess with the Indian community in the UK. The Indian community is so powerful. One of them is Prime Minister now, if I'm correct, or is he Pakistani? Please, somebody correct me. Same thing with the Chinese. One Chinese man doesn't go to the US and start seeing how he will build house in his village in China. No. They go to the US and establish a Chinese bee colony there. Gathering resources, creating empires, and siphoning the honey back to China. What the Nigerian, I'm not going to use the insect because you know it is not a bee. Are you a bee? They go abroad, gather whatever crumbs they can gather, and send home. The colony is waiting at home to devour whatever it sees. Scotland Prime Minister is Pakistani. Indian Prime Minister is originally Indian. The Indians, the average shop, small off-license shop in the UK is owned by either a Pakistani or an Indian. So I want us to proceed into today's sermon. Well, Natural Gambia, are you available for us? All we do is consume. I sent you a message, but you didn't read it. If you're available, let me bring you on so you can help me with scriptures. Are you okay? Yo? You spinning? 1 second. Are you ready? Let me see if I can bring Natural Gambia live so we can start the sermon proper. While I'm waiting, let us start with a prayer. Heavenly Father, I come before you to thank you for the gathering of your children. And I ask that wisdom be bestowed upon this generation. I ask for your direction, your mercy, your kindness, your love. Father, Lord, may your will be done in our lives. May your direction and love be upon us, O Lord. Not just now, but always. In Yahushua's name I pray. Amen. Amen.
Hiya. I'm with my kids, so I don't know if I'll be any good to you. Let me come and say hello.
Okay, let me just say hi. Oh, my sound has gone again.
If I make noise, though.
All right. Hi, cuties. They go just like their mommy. All right, then. So let me allow you to spend time with the family.
It's up to you. I don't know.
Let me allow you to spend time with the family. Family time is very important.
So I can read for you.
It's okay. Let me allow you to spend time with your family.
Okay. No wala. Bye-bye.
Bye. Yeah. Family time is really important. I didn't tell her earlier on, so I didn't get, or she didn't read my message on time. But anyway, it's good enough. So let us start. If you can go with me to, let's start with a bit of history. Have you heard of Septimius Severus? Has any one of you heard of Septimius Severus? I need you guys on this one. Have you heard of Septimius Severus? Many years ago, there was an African Roman emperor, Septimius Severus. He ruled large parts of Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. When he came to Hadrian's Wall in 208 AD, there were black soldiers already stationed there, and they had traveled right across the empire. 2,000 years ago, we had bee colony Africans. Africans who are powerful. The second richest man that ever lived, apart from King Solomon, was a man called Musa. Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa was from the Mali Empire. He is the second richest man that ever lived, ever, apart from King Solomon. Because King Solomon's wealth can be measured in gold, that puts him as the richest man to have ever lived. Mansa Musa, the second. I like to refer you to Acts chapter 8, proof of the fact that Africans were at a time bee colony countries. Acts chapter 8. Very important. Verse 26. As for Philip, an angel of the Lord said to him, go south, down the desert road that runs from Jerusalem to Gaza. So he started out and he met the treasurer of Ethiopia, the treasurer of a whole country, a eunuch of great authority under the Kandake, the queen of Ethiopia. In the book of Acts, Ethiopia had a black treasurer that came to Jerusalem to worship. And that treasurer worked under a black queen, the Kandake. Some people call her Candace. That's where the American name Candace seems to originate from. We had Cleopatra. We had Amina. We had queens in Africa before England existed as a colony. Am I correct? Am I connecting with you? When the book of Acts was written, England did not exist as a colony. But they brought civilization to us. They brought Christianity to us. People that did not exist. When the Ethiopian eunuch working for Candace or Kandake was returning from Jerusalem and had an encounter with Philip, they did not exist as a people. Their language did not exist. It had not even formed. And they brought us civilization. What an insult. But you see, they used the easiest tool to get to us. religion. I was watching Blessing CEO the other day, and the whole debate about Blessing CEO being dressed too revealing, that she is un-Christian. And I sat down and I kind of wondered, you mean un-Jewish or you mean un-Israeli? What do you mean un-Christian? It was very normal for Africans 200 years ago to walk around bare-chested, male and female. It was very normal for Africans to tie a little bit of cloth around their, what is it called? But still walk around bare-chested? Think about it. In my house, PT knows this because PT and I talk a lot. Anytime he calls me on live video, I know they wear cloth. Why am I wearing cloth in a tropical country? Why do I need to wear cloth in this heat? I will just wear short knicker and I'm topless. But you see, there is a misguided notion of Africa, which is nothing more than a European Christian syncretization with some of our beliefs, and we sell that as our culture. You go see person from Port Harcourt, they answer Pepple. Is Pepple an African name? You don't even know the level to which these people pour themselves on us. So that you think it's normal to answer a British or a Portuguese name. You think it's okay. What exactly is your culture? Go right now to YouTube and type Zulu Virgin Dance. You will see topless young ladies of between 14 and about 20 who are pure, Jigga Collins, God bless you, dancing topless. Each time I go to Africa, and if you do it, South Africa, if you do a tour of South Africa, they'll take you somewhere where topless girls will dance for you. And nobody looks at it as sinful, because that is African. When they came and took us as slaves, they wiped away our history, they wiped away our identity, and they mixed it with this false Christianity. Let me tell you, the Christianity that came from the UK, that came from Portugal, it's a false notion of Christianity. The Roman Christianity, forgive me, you might be angry with me, is a false Christianity. Because it had lost its connection with the original man, whose business it was to give his life for love. And it had become a system so powerful when used as a political tool. You want to crush your enemies, just use religion. Just label a woman a witch, that's all. She'll be on a stake in a few weeks. It was that easy. Ask King James. Religion was that tool where a powerful man kneels before a dwarf, because the dwarf has the key to heaven. A powerful man, someone like Dwayne Wright, I mean, what's his name? Kneeling before a dwarf, a tiny, feeble dwarf whose strengths rely only in the fact that he can sell a product that is invisible, and you must have a certain amount of wisdom to connect with that product. And the product is called God. I'll take this a little further. Nigerian Christians are raised in a nexus of interactions and relationships that shape the expression of their thought processes, persuasions, and compulsions, defining their needs from the beginning. At the focal point of your Christian journey is the interaction and relationships that shape you. This is my theory. At the focal point, the center of your existence, you have two very vital things: relationships and interactions. Who you are related to and what relationships you form, and the interactions with those relationships shape the expression of your thought process. Then your persuasions, your thought processes are things that linger in your mind. I'll say one, for instance: what God cannot do does not exist. It's a thought process in your mind. Your mind is playing around with it until it becomes a persuasion. You are persuaded into believing in it. More unconscious than conscious, more indirect than direct. And then your thought processes and persuasions gradually become compulsions. You have a compulsive belief system, a belief system that if you do not share, you either become the Antichrist or an outcast or hell-bound, or there's something wrong with you. As long as you do not share the compulsions, the persuasions, and the thought processes. But guess what? At the nexus is a relationship between your relationships and your interactions. And these shape your being. And by the time you're 5, you find yourself quicker to believe what you watch on African Magic, that a witch can fly and fall onto the ceiling of a house. You find that easier to believe than time travel using quantum mechanics. You will watch, hold on, you will watch, what's that sitcom with the geniuses, the British sitcom, was it British? Sheldon them. What's the sitcom with Sheldon? Big Bang Theory. You will watch something like Flash, and very quickly you dismiss it as science fiction. But you will watch African Magic, where a witch is controlling somebody from the village, and you will believe it. Because of your interactions and relationships at the nexus of your formation, you now believe the dumb and reject what there are calculations for. Let me tell you, there are calculations for time travel. It's just that human beings have not been able to achieve it. There's no calculation for witchcraft. You will believe that your problems are brought upon you by the devil, and the solution to your problem is God. Cockroach consumer mentality. The beehive, on the other hand, creates solutions to its problems. That is why the more powerful the beehive, the less religious it is. The UK just relegated Christianity to a minority religion. Christianity was the religion of state 500 years ago. All of a sudden, Christianity has now become a minority religion. And this is due to the fact that what they sold as Christianity cannot survive a modern mindset unless at the nexus of that mindset you have as a focal point superstitions and false religion. Then religion has a stronghold. Oh, I thought the elections would show you the fact that these guys are fakes. A huge chunk of them. I thought the election was going to open your eyes. I thought the election was going to rejuvenate your thought processes. But the problem is at the very nexus of your mindset, embellished by your interactions and relationships, you have persuasions, ideologies, and compulsions that deny you the ability to see the road in front of you. I don't know who it is that I'm speaking to. Pastors told us that angels were watching the polling booths. Pastors declared on their pulpits from hellfire who the candidate would be. Oh, they prayed. They even used their congregations to vote. At the end of it all, how did the election turn out? Oh, this is a very controversial topic, but let me not lie. It's one of the reasons why I'm happy of the way it turned out. Because my mission is not to get you a good leadership. My mission is to open your eyes. And as long as your eyes are closed, I have not done anything. God did not send me to this earth to help you get a new president, to get that president of the people. We think concern Christ with president of the people. How many times you see Christ put mouth for political matter? The one where I even do, God don't knock me like twice. My mission on this earth is to open your eyes, no matter who you have in power, as long as the nexus remains false religious beliefs, persuasions, and compulsions. You will always be a cockroach consumer mentality nation. Maybe I should use smaller English to explain it to you, but get somebody to explain it to you. I can't do it beyond that. Nigeria has a cancer, a cankerworm. And until we're ready to do the chemotherapy, the radiotherapy, the stem cell therapy, we are only using Panadol in vain. Change the leaders. In fact, go and bring Joe Biden and put him as our president. He will face the same problem they're all facing. Because you are dealing with a people whose mindset is warped. How do you lead them? The average Nigerian man goes to the UK, pays somebody to pay money into his account, then pays monthly for the money to be in account so they can show it as proof of funds, so they can go to the UK. Do you realize that that carries 12 years imprisonment? That is a financial crime. Let me talk to you about crimes. Let me read this to you. Being passed as a law now in France, it is now mandatory for an influencer to tell their followers if they have used a filter on their picture or risk a 2-year jail term. Something as small as filter. When I go see Bobrisky today in face go clear, when I go see him tomorrow go get BABA. Filter. In France, people are going to go to jail for something as small as not informing their followers that they used a filter, because they don't want any deception at all. How dare you go to the UK? You will not get 1 million. You provide proof of funds of one girl told me, my former colleague called me up one day and said I should pay 20 million into her account. First of all, I sat down and I looked at her and said, Even if I had 20 million, I'll pay the 20 million to your account, then my money will now hook you. Now tell me sorry. You know, let me tell you, in Nigeria, we do a lot of things that they. So you want proof of funds for 20 million naira. So you what? You can show them that you have 20 million that you don't have. But then you are angry with Tinubu. And then you think Peter Obi is your solution. I'm sorry, I'm not going to preach that message to you until you are ready to fix your cockroach consumer mentality mindset. Until you are ready as a people to sit down and think things through properly. Until you are ready to start submitting yourself to reason. You will continue in the downward spiral your parents were. Listen, the Nigeria you are seeing today is because of the stupidity of your grandparents. Do you think, you think Nigeria became like this yesterday? No. In 1960, Nigeria got her independence. We had oil. We discovered oil 4 years prior. We had cocoa, we had rubber, we had groundnut pyramids. We even had cola nuts for export quantities. We had everything. Now, combined with that, we had no earthquakes, no tsunamis, no hurricanes, no tornadoes, no volcanoes, no landslides, no mudslides. We didn't even have snow. God gave us a platform that I believe was wickedly biased. Japan did not have that platform. Europe did not have that platform. What did we do with it? 3 words: cockroach consumer mentality. That's what we did with it. In the same time frame, 3 years prior to 1960, in 1957, the same year Ghana got their independence, South Korea got their independence. Today, the South Korean beehive produces LG, Samsung. Samsung rivals iPhone, par to par. Forget anything where iPhone they talk. Samsung, they drag them with them. As I'm broadcasting to you, I use 7 phones. 2 are Samsung. One is the latest Samsung Fold 4, and the other one is my S20 that I've been. Sorry, 3 Samsungs. Plus this old one, Seth, let me show it to you. It's a Samsung, you can see it. I use 3 Samsungs and 4 iPhones. Par to par. The Koreans produced Kia. They produced Hyundai. They have Hyundai Heavy Industries where they produce parts for ships. We got our independence around the same time. Look at us. Look at South Korea. For another 5 years, Singapore was in the chains of poverty. Singapore was a poor country. And they did not get their independence until another 5 years in 1965, amidst poverty and underdevelopment. Today, a Singaporean does not need to jackpot to the UK or the US because their passport is even stronger than the UK or the US passport. Their passport is number 2 in the world. Singapore did not exist when we were a wealthy, independent nation. What was the first thing? As Singapore was getting their independence, and as they started to invest in development, infrastructure, education, and modernization, that same year we're planning a war. The very next year, 66, we went into war. A country given everything. It's like your son gets admission to Oxford. You get him a house. You buy him a Ferrari. You go to the Gucci shop and say, every month my son is going to come here for clothes and shoes. Send the bill to my company. You go to the LV store, you go to Louis Vuitton, you stop by at Udemar P. Gay, and then you go over to Rolex and tell him every year he's going to need a watch from either one of you and one from Patek too. So all your son needs to do is read his books, and then your son comes at the bottom of the class. And then your son fails so badly that your son is kicked out of the university. But guess what? There were people who had to wash corpses to go to school. There were people who had to drive cabs. I know a young man who drove a refuse truck to send himself to school. And those ones who are driving refuse trucks, and those ones who are washing corpses in the hospital, and those ones who are taking care of elderly people who cannot control their bowels, they were topping the class. But you that had a Ferrari, you that had a house, you that had unlimited funds, you that had blessings all around you, whatever you wanted, you got, you were the bottom of the class. Cockroach consumer mentality. The countries that were in our class were South Korea, 3 years before us. Singapore, 5 years after us. United Arab Emirates, 11 whole years after us. When Nigeria was a successful independent state, Dubai was sand. Dubai was sand. And all of a sudden, the wealthy university student with his Ferrari and his house cannot even maintain when poor people, and let me break it down to you. At that time, there was an orphan in this same university where this child, whose father is so wealthy, gave him a Ferrari, a house, designers, money, anything he needed. There was a child who was an orphan, had no parents, had no guardians, had no food. All he had to do was work his hands to the bone so he could feed. And that child today is the leader of all that class. He is the class captain of that class. Oh, I'm talking to you about China today, you cockroaches. Oh, forgive me if I use that word, but you need to understand this. The Chinese started a beehive. When we were a wealthy, prosperous nation, China was in the middle of a war. They were orphaned by war. The Great Chinese War. In 1960, the Nigerian population was 45 million. Between 1958 and 1961, the population of Chinese that died in the Great Chinese Famine was 50 million. More than the whole of Nigeria combined died inside the war. They were orphaned. They were orphaned. They didn't have luxury. They had nothing. But they had a mindset that was not altered by religious foolishness. Let me tell you something. In China today, you cannot carry a child that is younger than 18 into a church. The government does not want religion to put a phallus inside your head and thrust away. The average Nigerian man has a gigantic phallus inside his brain, thrusting away. The Chinese refused to do that. Religion was not their compulsion or their persuasion. Going to heaven was not their necessity. Creating heaven was. I don't know who it is that I'm speaking to today. So in the class, we have the rich Nigerian, blessed on all ramifications. He didn't have to work. All he needed to do was drive his Ferrari to class, listen to lectures, drive to the library, read, go and eat the best of meals in the best hotels. All he had to do was study. Everything else was provided. The Chinese came out of war. The South Korean came out of poverty. The Singaporeans came out from abject poverty. The United Arab Emiratis came out from the sand of the desert. And all began to thrive except the one who drove a Ferrari, who had everything ahead of him. He failed because they started to sow tares amongst us. He's not going to your heaven. He is Abia, you are Imo. Don't marry his daughter. He is Ogun, is Ijebu, you are Ijesha. Never marry. You are not the same. You will go abroad and cry about racism, about what other races are doing to us. And then we come home and do the exact same thing to somebody who is not from our land. At the nexus of the bane of our existence, you will find that it is our mind thoughts, persuasions, and compulsions that led to our destruction. Part of the cockroach consumer mentality is instant gratification. Instant gratification. It's the bane of the existence of Nigerians. A Nigerian wants to live in Banana Island tomorrow from Shomolu Bariga without having anything to show for it. So I said something to people during the election. The election just proved everything I've been preaching for the last 7 years. I said something to people. I said, if you look at the elections, you're going to see us. Somebody said they were hoodlums beating people during the election. Don't you see hoodlums beating people every day? If you live in a what was that place called? Ikorodu. At a point, there was 1 million boys. In this Lekki, there was a time when they were having regular cult wars in this Lekki, where you'll be driving in the morning, you see, say they don't 5 person live on the side of the road. During the NSAS, people came out and were looting. Where do you think those people are going to be on election day? In a church praying? No, they're going to come out and do the exact same thing they do every day. King's Jerry says, did your father ever told you the cause of the Civil War? First of all, your IQ is low from the way you put your words together. I can see you were not properly educated. And you will tell me, yeah, that English is not important until I see Pythagoras theory written in Yoruba or Igbo. Until I see relativity theory in Igbo. Until I see books on sociology or banking in Igbo. You better learn that English language and you better learn it well. Secondly, someone says, you are talking about the cause of the Civil War. I don't care about the cause. If we loved one another, we could have prevented it. What caused the Civil War? The fact that people are intolerant. The fact that people can't live together. The fact that people don't love one another. That's what led to the Civil War. It's as simple as that. You can put an equation to define it. But at the end of the day, it's the simple thing. You don't love one another. You discriminate against each other. You think one tribe is superior to the other. That's what led to the wars. As simple as that. You're asking me if I ask my father. The only thing I would ever ask your father is, how did he allow you to grow to maturity and continue being such a dingbat of essence? How did he allow you to prioritize in the tiny cocoon you have, hurling around like a bowling ball inside your otherwise empty cranium? How did he allow you to use that to create thought processes that made you even dumber than him? Oh, I'm not going to be easy on you. Paul looked at the Galatians and said, "Oh, foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you?" Someone says, if you are reading the Bible to prove a point, you end up being like Daddy Freeze. Oh, please, end up being like me. It's the salvation. If Nigeria had half of its population like me, we'll have better elections, we'll have better candidates. Because we're not going to be wound up by religious and ethnic sentiments. Till today, they are still fighting over who should be where, who should be in 2023. Is that how they do it abroad? No wonder you are jackpine. To continue your CCM. Please come out for my life, Joe. I've tried to be your deliverance long enough, but until the day you are ready to deliver yourself, you will continue being in bondage. Now can I continue if you permit me? I said it the other day. I said everything you have in Nigeria today was created by Nigerians. Our pastors, we gravitate towards pastors who tell us what we want to hear, who fund the embellishment of superstition, who will tell you your problem is spiritual so you can pay them a fee. They're not men of God, they're men of greed. Greed is their God, emanating from their bellies, where they hunger for earthly things. Your pastors are just like you, greedy like you, wicked like you. You know, see, pastor, we see me they go buy dog the other day. We see me they go buy dog. We enter a compound. Pastor, your politicians are just like you. Your doctors are just like you. And guess what? Even your devil is like you. The Nigerian devil is more wicked than any other devil from any other part of the world. And then comes the Nigerian God. An urgent 2K God like the Nigerian who created him. Exodus chapter 32 tells us of how the Israelites went to meet Aaron and said, build us a God. This fellow Moses is lost. We don't know where he is. Build us a God. And they built them a cow god in their image. In the image of their persuasions, perversions, ideologies, and compulsions. A God like them was built for them. And you walk around the streets in Nigeria, 5 to 10 churches on every street, and a God like the Nigerian was built. An urgent 2K God. A God that needs you to give him money. If you don't give him money, you will not be blessed. The last time I gave anything like religion money was about 7 years ago. I know I'm blessed. I know what it feels like in a recession to go into a Mercedes-Benz shop and customize a Mercedes-Benz. No, 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 no. We don't buy off the car lot. We spec. I know what it feels like to have a happy home, to live with a beautiful woman who loves me and respects me. When I was paying money to your urgent 2K God, I had none of those things. I was living in sadness. I got into depression at a point in my life. I thought about it today and I thank God. I went on my knees to thank God for rescuing me. I just started losing weight. There was nothing wrong with me, but I just started losing weight. I lost weight so badly that my watches no longer fit. I had to resize my watches. Then my belts were falling off my trousers. They were falling off me. So I had to go and put new holes in my belts. I had no sickness. There was no sickness. But I just kept losing weight. I was depressed. I would wake up in the morning and have no reason to get out of my bed. You don't know what I went through that period, and may you never go through it. And that was supposed to be at a point in my life where I was in my previous marriage. My depression cured the day my first marriage ended. And it's one of the things that made me question the Christian narrative. How can Christianity tell me that I have to be with this in this marriage? I'm not saying my ex is bad or she was bad. I am just saying we had no business together. There was nothing we were doing there was nothing I was doing that had her in it, and there was nothing she was doing that had me in it. It's not this one that Daddy Freeze and Taste Buds are working things. Nah. It was you're on your own, I'm on my own, but we gotta stay married because the church wants us married. And every day I'm moving around, I'm interacting with ladies, and I'm wondering, why did I not marry this person? I'm meeting ladies from my past in the university, sitting down and having conversations with them and realizing how lucky their husbands were and how unlucky I was, not because I was bad or because she was bad, but because we had no business getting married in the first place. And then gradually, it took years, I started disconnecting from the urgent 2K God. And God himself started teaching me scripture. He started feeding my brain with revelation. And one day, I was reading the book of 1 Peter, chapter 1, verse 18. For you know that it was not with perishable items, such as silver or gold, that you were redeemed from the empty way of life handed down to your ancestors. It was not through silver or gold. And Isaiah chapter 52 verse 3 confirms this. Isaiah says, for this is what the Lord says, you were sold for nothing, and without money you would be redeemed. Without money you would be redeemed. But then you are in Nigeria, where if you don't pay tithe, you're going to go to hellfire by default. Then you find yourself in Nigeria, where if you don't pay first fruit, you are dumb. Do you know how much I made in January? I should carry it and go and give pastor? Am I mad? Sometimes my January income can be so sweet. But then your urgent 2K God will send you a DM. I need 2K now. You go to church. You are already, I used to attend one church here in Lekki, along Freedom Way. You know the church now. They already have a big church, and beside the big church, they are building the next big church. One guy now told me, when he heard that my mom's boss, Chief Afe Babalola, donated 10 million to a British school. I don't know how true the story is, but the guy sent me, he said, why can't Afe Babalola come and donate it to a Nigerian university? I said, so they can share his money and Italy. He has done enough for Nigeria. He has built the #1 university in the country, in Nigeria. He did not build it in Lagos. He did not build it in Abeokuta. He built it in Ekiti State and created an opportunity of educational tourism in a state nobody would have gone to normally. Meanwhile, now all of you are sending your children to Ekiti State, to Afe Babalola University. You're always looking for who will come and rescue you when you are not willing to rescue yourself. Do you think Afe Babalola wakes up at 7 a.m. and goes on his phone and does what God cannot do, does not exist? Rascally behaves Calabar. Do you think that's what he does? If he did that, he'll be poor like the rest of you. Do you think Bill Gates wakes up in the morning and the first thing that's on his mind is to go and join some comedian somewhere saying what God cannot do does not exist? Every day, more and more celebrities are dying, and their families. Let me give you the attitude of American women. How many have they raised? You are gathering every morning and you are doing what God cannot do does not exist. And every day people are buying. Every day, every month, there's one celeb here, one celeb, and you have not raised one single one. One you have not raised. That's the bane of your existence. Then when they are done, they will paste account number. Hey, that thing is suiting you. But you be seeing people donating. Is that how the Singaporeans donated? You see, people from all over the world bring their nectar to the beehive, and the queen bee and the rest of the colony create honey that is valuable to all. Bears love honey. Humans love honey. Honey is medicinal. At a point, humans were going to steal their honey. Now, so that the bees can produce honey, the humans create perfect environments for them and protect them from their natural predators. Because guess what? They produce honey. I don't know who it is that I'm speaking to this afternoon, but the BCCs, the bee colony countries, gather nectar and produce honey. But the CCM, cockroach consumer mentality countries, gather their nectar and eat it. One man jenyon, one issue, they eat their pounded yam as yam. One man jenyon, one issue is only if you understand your right. Inyon is pounded yam. You will eat your pounded yam as yam. You cannot turn that yam into anything beneath that raw yam. As a matter of fact, not only do we not even eat our pounded yam as yam, we eat it as a raw yam. The bees turn nectar into honey. They know how to preserve the honey. They know how to manufacture the honey. What we do is we wake up in the morning and we jenyon one issue. We have had crude oil for 60 years. What did we do with it? I was talking to someone the other day, and the person was telling me that the pipelines have rusted. They were supposed to have been maintained 30 years ago, if not overhauled. Natural Gambia said they eat their seed yam. Some will eat their seed yam, some of them will eat their yam plants. They will not even wait for it to even turn to yams. They will even chop the yam raw. But the B colony countries, the BCCs, they prepare sweet pounded yam with sweet eforiro or egusi, with nice bush meat on the side, and with a cold cup of palm wine. While the CCMs, the cockroach mentality countries, have eaten the leaves on the plant, so the plant cannot even grow. Without money, you are sold, and you will be redeemed without it. Philippians chapter 3 verse 19, their destiny is destruction, their God is their belly. They brag about shameful things, and they only think about this life on earth. Their God is their belly. They are consumers. All they do is consume resources. The bees carry their nectar and make honey. We carry our nectar and give to religion. Religion is the most unproductive business on earth. What does religion generate? It generates new members. That's all. Really. You are paying your money into a system that indoctrinates new people. That's your goal. Really. When you put your money in the automotive industry, they produce a car. When you take your money and you invest it in the aeronautical industry, they create a plane, or they develop newer planes, faster planes, safer planes. When you take your money and you put it into space technology, renewable energy, you see the products. But when you put your money in religion, what you get is an urgent 2K people and their urgent 2K God. Oh, hallelujah. I think I'm connecting with somebody this morning. You create an urgent 2K people with their urgent 2K God. 5 to 10 churches on every street. I dare you today to show me what benefit we have. Show me. How are we better than the satanic countries? How are we better than the countries that have a temple of Satan? In what way are we better? You are talking that you are going to heaven? Are you people mad? Finally. You talk about going to heaven in 2023 when you live in a hellfire. What, mention one benefit of 5 churches on every street. Mention it. I'm here waiting. I want to read it. Tell me, are we more moral than the satanic and the pagan and the atheist nations? The answer is no. Nigeria is second only to Jamaica when it comes to paternity fraud. Listen, prostitution is legal in some parts of Amsterdam and in some parts of Germany, and they don't have the paternity fraud we have. At least the prostitutes are honest enough to tell their husbands at home, say, this one will be your pikin. Our women, according to a survey, were the most promiscuous on earth. Some people say they doubted the survey. Me with waiting I don't see. As leader of Free Nation, waiting me I don't see. Not only according to my own small statistics is that thing true, it is true by a wide margin. The second country, they far behind. We preach prosperity every day and all we have to market is poverty. We have a life expectancy rate that is lower than the life expectancy rate of the pagans and the atheists. But meanwhile, we have a God. Our God cannot even tell his servants who is going to win ordinary election. Our God installed angels at polling booths, yet the angels were either rigging with the riggers, or the angels condoned the rigging, or the angels could do nothing because people were slapping them. God, get out, you don't want to rig. The true God, Yahweh, is not created according to your needs. He's not created according to your wants. Because you see, yeah, there's a problem. What I want is different from what taste buds want. If you allow taste buds, waiting concern and make house big, make swimming pool day inside. As long as house they moderate, waiting concern me now my watch collection and my car collection. I will not live in a poor area and I will not live in a tiny house, but that I will carry my money and go and buy a big house with swimming pool. Nah. My own day different. Her own day different. Your own day different. My papa own day different. So once your interpretation of pleasure is different, the problem is your interpretation of the provision of pleasure is also going to be different. Let me explain this a little further. If I had money and I bought the latest Ferrari, I will believe God has blessed me. Just the way someone would choose something else as a blessing. And that is why we have to understand God, so we don't worship God in vain. Because what we have in Nigeria is a misunderstanding of God and is a zeal for God. Let me scripturally base this teaching. Go with me to the book of Romans. Romans. Oh my goodness, looks like this phone is not clear. I've been using it like that all day. It's better now, yeah. Romans chapter 10. Sorry, our light went. We'll be back in a moment. Verses 1 and 2. Dear brothers and sisters, the longing of my heart and my prayer to God is for the people of Israel to be saved. I know they have a zeal for God, but their zeal is not based on knowledge. This is how important knowledge is. According to the Greek Bible, the original Greek Bible, it says, Zelon theo ekusin al kat epignosin. Zeal for God, Zelon theo. Ekusin, they have. Al okat epignosin, but not according to knowledge. They have a zeal for God, but there is no knowledge. And this is what reminds me of Nigeria. Nigerians want to serve God. They want to love God. They want to have a relationship with God, but they don't have the knowledge of God. So they go from one urgent 2K pastor to one urgent 2K God and back, swinging back and forth like a misguided pendulum. So I want to end today's message with this. As long as, I made a definition earlier on, and you can write this down because it's my definition. I said, Nigerian Christians are raised in a nexus of interactions and relationships that shape the expression of their thought processes, persuasions, and compulsions, defining their needs from the beginning. As you are born, your interactions and relationships shape the expression of your thoughts and your persuasions, and consequently your compulsions. I think we need to go back a little. Back to the nexus. Back to the crucial focal point of our existence. How did we become what we are? How did we allow our parents to guide us into a faith that failed them? A faith system that created bitterness and war. A faith system that is used to fund, quote and unquote, religious war. You heard the leaked conversation, did you not hear it? Religious war. That's what your faith has been used to. Divide and rule. These people are Muslims, they are going to a different hellfire. We are Christians, we are God's chosen people. Christ did not in anywhere say, if you are a Muslim, you will not make heaven. Christ said, if you follow me, I am the way. A way is not to be worshipped. Worshipping Christ was added to the doctrine later on for political reasons. Christ never said anybody should worship him. Christ even told the devil, when the devil says, worship me and I'll give you all the kingdoms of this world, in Matthew chapter 4. You know what Christ told the devil? He said, the scriptures say, worship God alone. Let's read Matthew chapter 4. I want to read it in Greek, the original language the scripture was written. Matthew chapter 4. Verse 10. Matthew chapter 4, verse 10. It says, God Kyrion ton theon, so procrastinaces keotomono Lazarus. The Lord, Krion ton theon, the Lord your God, sue of you. Shall you worship, and him monolatriosus shall you serve. Mono, only. Him alone, mono. Not him and me. Christ had a clear opportunity to clear Satan. Say, God, no, I'm not going to worship you. You're going to worship me. And he said, no, worship God alone. And instead of worshiping God, we have begun to worship the pleasures of this earth. We have begun to use God as a tool to embellish the wars over the pleasures of this earth. Christ never said, worship me. Christ said, worship God alone, but follow me. How do you follow someone? By obeying their instructions. You'll be amazed that Muslims obey their instructions because they consider Christ to be a prophet. You'll be amazed that the pagans obey Christ's instructions because his instructions are very straightforward. It is Paul that created a religion out of Christianity. The instructions of Christ is love your neighbor as yourself. Be strong. Love one another. Show love. Christ's instruction no plenty. And if you read Matthew chapter 25, 31 to 41, at the end of the day, he said when he comes with all his angels, and he's going to separate the sheep from the goats. And all it took was those who loved would make heaven, and those who didn't love will go to hellfire. Read Matthew chapter 25, 40 and 41. So we're too busy creating brands over our 2K gods, urgent 2K gods. We have Romans chapter 10 verse 2, an urge to worship God, but that urge is not based on knowledge. I want to end now by asking you, I woke up about 7 years ago, probably a little longer, maybe 2016, about 7 years ago. And it has been the most courageous journey of my life. I woke up and realized that my parents were wrong about God. I woke up and realized that my grandparents were the problem of my parents, because they did not teach my parents the tradition, they taught them the syncretized tradition. They had mixed Islam and Christianity with our traditions, and our parents taught that as a lot. So I ask this, if my parents and grandparents had the right to bend tradition to cause what they have today, why can't you and I bend it too? Because the Igbo and Yoruba traditions of today are not the original Igbo and Yoruba traditions. So they are the syncretized ones. You want to study Igbo history and tradition, you have to go back 200, 300 years. Then you will see the undiluted tradition. The traditions before the slave masters came and took us. Maybe even a little further back, before our history was burned and our temples were looted and our ideology was considered pagan. I end this message by urging you to read in between the lines. By urging you to wake up from your slumber. Your priority right now is not how to pray yourself out of your current mess. Your mess is going to be there. The urgency upon us is to change the nexus away from harmful, superstitious ideologies and having a whole paradigm shift from being a CCM, cockroach consumer mentality nation, and becoming a BCC, a bee colony country. We need to build a nation like the way the bees and the termites build their nations. We cannot continue existing like roaches. We will continue to survive. Roaches survive very well, but they never thrive. They cannot create or replicate. They only consume. May the consumption mentality within us be removed by a total mind shift paradigm, so that we may be able to get to what we need to get to as a people. Africans were not born slaves, we were not born poor, we were not born weak. And we will not allow this to continue. God bless you. God protect you. And God guide you all. Amen. Thank you all so much for coming to service. Share the message with someone. Share the love with someone. Change your mentality and let love lead always. God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you, Natural Gambia, Remy, Mazi, Obinaya, thank you very much. Thank you all of you watching on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Thank you all. We had over 100 people watching on TikTok alone. We still have about 190 on YouTube, 150 on Facebook, and we have at the point over 300 watching on Instagram. Thank you so much. Thank you all. And even my personal Instagram page, I have about 4 people there. Thank you all so much. Today's message was a wake-up message. We need to wake up. Our future and the future of our children depends on us waking up. God bless you. Ewa Honey says, hope to join you next week. I look forward to hosting you next week. We do this every single Sunday. We've done this every single Sunday for over 7 years. Made my you, God bless you. Esther Omori, God bless you. Thank you. Brother Shupo, thank you so much. Thank you all.